couldn't wait. Hey, it's Romania Black. Yeah, I couldn't wait. No. We are on episode 4 of Death Parade, and I watched episode 3 a few days ago, and I was like, oh, I'll wait for some comments to come in, and then tonight I got back from going to see a movie with my brother, and I was like, I want to watch something, but I don't know what to watch. And then I was like, I want to watch Death Parade. So yeah, we're here. Last episode was great. Last episode was such a cool reversal from what we had with the first couple. The first couple had a very negative ending in turmoil, and they were disagreeing with one another, and the relationship sort of devolved and fell apart. And here in episode 3, we got to see a relationship kind of blossom and bloom and come together before they were both apparently sent to be reincarnated. So that's pretty cool, right? I really like that. So we're kind of on a roll. We didn't get much development with the lore of the world building of where Decim and the black-haired girl are. We didn't get much in terms of that. Instead, we just got mainly rebuilding that relationship between the couple and kind of showing a little bit more of the dynamic with Decim and the black-haired girl. I thought that was pretty interesting, if I'm being honest. But yeah. So I'm hopeful that we've had 2 of the 9 ways in which Death Parade can happen. And so I'm hopeful that we'll see, obviously, the other ways that are on the roulette board, but more importantly, that we get to go back and see Nona, see some of the other characters, see how their dynamics are, and see how they interact with the black-haired girl who shall not be named. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, I couldn't wait. I was like, I really want to see this episode and see what happens and try to maybe get a little bit ahead of possible spoilers, right? Because there's only 12 episodes in this series, along with the OVA. So sad days, y'all. I'm just very sad that that's all we get. But yeah, I'm pretty excited, everybody. I am looking forward to seeing what we get, and we'll just enjoy episode 4. I'm assuming that at this point, we've done the reversal of a couple. We've shown a couple falling apart and coming together, and that relationship dynamic. So I'm curious to see what we're going to get next, because it always has to be a pair. It has to be 2 individuals coming to the games at the same time. So we've done 2 couples. I'm wondering if we'll get family members, like a mother-daughter or a father-son, or a mother-son, father-daughter, or 2 relatives, 2 maybe grandparents or something. There's a lot of combinations, or it could be 2 strangers. Could be 2 strangers. Could be 2 workers at the same company. Could be lots of different ways in which this works out. But y'all, there's a storm brewing outside, so if you hear thunder and see lightning, it is because it's storming outside, and it is hot and humid. My home is, I don't have the air on because I'm not wasting that electricity, and so my home is a little humid right now, so everything's like that, but the sacrifices we make, right? So I'm excited to see what all we get. I hope y'all are too, but we're gonna start Death Parade episode 4 and see what we get. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this, y'all. So this episode, what the fudge? Man, interesting, right? I thought about getting White Boy Kun out, but I think I'm going to wait because it was really just Decim and the black-haired girl. And the black-haired girl didn't really do much in this episode except be like us and be like, oh, Decim, we're playing a part in this judgment system. And we just did a complete 180 from episode 3. Episode 3 was kind of heartwarming and oh, despite this weird macabre situation, you 2 got to know each other and become friends in the afterlife. And then you both got reincarnated. And here, it can be 2 complete strangers. The deaths do not have to be connected to one another, because you had in the first episode, with the first case, the couple were they both died at the exact same time together. And the same thing happened in episode 3, where they died in the exact same time together, and they were both the results of automobile accidents. Here, no, it was just 2 people that died at the exact same time that just happened to end up here at the exact same time. They did not know each other. They weren't related. The deaths weren't connected in any way. Their lives weren't even connected in any way, shape, or form. The only thing that is connected in this instance is the idea that the boy, or the man, Yusuke, took for granted the love of either his mother or stepmother. I'm assuming stepmother because she said she just wanted him to call her mama. I'm assuming stepmother. That he took for granted the love she was giving him, and for whatever reason, we'll go back to the episode, committed suicide. And then only through seeing Misaki and seeing her like lament her children in the end, only then did he realize, oh shit, this woman actually did love me, my mom or stepmom, and I completely killed myself without her realizing that what she could have meant to me. So man, it's a heavy episode, and it got dark real quick. I was like, oh no. And the thing that's kind of crazy about it is that Decim, as a character, you know, he looks all cutesy, and his like robotic blank face can be played off as innocent and cute, but here there was definitely a sinister side where he's like, we need to be able to judge them, and I can't judge them if they don't reveal themselves. And he was like speeding up the process. I'm like, well, I guess because they picked the arcade game that was literally a very short game. That was like the shortest death match ever. It was really, really quick. This episode felt like it was 5 minutes, by the way. Felt like it was 5 minutes long. I was looking at the timer going, it's been 20 minutes? No way. Like, there was no way, shape, or form that was the case. But here we are, and it's just, what's fascinating is, I guess Decim, in the last 2 games, like, a game of bowling is a long game. Like, they had time across that game to develop that relationship, for their memories to slowly come out, for that relationship to kindle, and for Decim to be able to watch them and see and judge them on how their memories were and what their souls revealed, right? And in the last episode, it revealed that in the case of those two, their souls were good inside, and that they were worthy of being reincarnated. In the first episode, they had the game of darts, which, like bowling, has several rounds to it, and so the same thing unfolded, but Decim ended up making the judgment call of letting the girl go to the void and the guy get reincarnated based on his judgment of that moment. Whether or not that was the right call, the black-haired girl kind of contests, right? But Nona's like, John, we're fine. Everything's good. Don't judge the arbiter. We just go on what we see. So it makes sense now that Decim was trying to speed along the process, because there's only 3 rounds to this game. This arcade game has 3 rounds. And if you're like me and you're sitting here spamming the buttons, then yeah, it's going to get over pretty quick. And he's like, it's almost like Decim has to make a judgment call, but he's like, well, at the rate we're going, we're not getting anything revealed about these characters. The game is going to be over before we learn anything, and I'm going to have to make a judgment call on what to do with these individuals, knowing virtually nothing about them. So even though the black-haired girl calls him out on it, and she's like, this is really sinister, why are you doing this? It kind of makes sense, because Decim's like, I gotta make a judgment, and I wonder if Decim is taking into account that first episode where the black-haired girl calls him out in episode 2 saying you made a bad call because you didn't take all that information into account, or you didn't judge the situation right. I wonder if Decim, if the reason why he speeds up the process is to make sure that that doesn't happen again. He wants to make sure he makes the right judgment the second time around and doesn't make the same mistake he made in that first episode. And so that's why he speeds up the process, to reveal who they are by putting each other in these situations. Oh man. And it didn't exactly go the way I thought it was going to, if I'm being honest, but we'll go through the episode and talk about it. But what a crazy episode, am I right? I mean, from the get-go, we start out with the 2 of them trying to, like, exit the building and not being able to do so, right? We start out with that. And then she takes him to the bathroom, trying to figure out, and by her logic, she drags him to the ladies' room, and she's like, I like how she says, I'm not going to take advantage of you, and she instantly kabadons him up against the door, and he's like, then what are we doing? And she's like, I'm not taking advantage of you, but I want you to know, I think we're getting punked. Like, I think Ashton Kutcher's around the corner, ready to come out and reveal that it's all been a troll. It's all been a sham and a prank. And she thinks it's just a reality show playing a game and that she's part of it. And the guy that's the otaku, Yusuke, he's just kind of like blushy, like, oh, I don't know. And of course, she has like this very busty shirt on, like trying to play up her character is so fascinating, because she makes a name for herself on her figure and her looks and her vanity. Like, she has the busty, I like the fact that there's a lot of symbolism with her character in this. Like, you have the contrast of her character. You have her character who is a mother of 5 children, but then she's trying to play herself off as like the attractive single woman, right? So you have that contrast. You have, again, you're getting into our Neon Genesis symbolism. You have the idea of breasts and the idea that you have her like exuding her sexuality by like pushing her bra up and like making her cleavage show. And then you contrast that with her breastfeeding one of her children while she's got the big welt on her face from getting physically assaulted. You've got that contrast going on. You have the fact that she tries to look young, but she can't but she's tried to look young, but she's had to be older from an early age, right? So you have that going on. There's just so much with her character and the layers of it. I find it fascinating. Misaki Tachibana, no relation to Makoto, right? This is not Kiwani, it's not free. But she says she's Tachibana, and he says that he's Tateshi Yosuke. And she asks if he recognized her from that large family show, and it says, "We're behind you, single mom, hot 3-time divorcee with 3 sons and 2 daughters." So she gets famous on television for having this beautiful figure and having all these kids and being single, and she's been divorced 3 times. So she has kids with 3 different men. But all her kids kind of look the same, so clearly the genetics are on her side. Like, all her kids kind of look the same despite having multiple fathers. And he's like, "Oh, well, you look younger." And she's like, "Oh, you mean the camera makes me look older?" And he's like, he like digs his own grave. He's like, "I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do." And then she's like, "Oh, this is probably just a hidden camera show. It's probably nothing crazy, right? Just a hidden camera show. We just got to act accordingly." And then the idea that it goes back and the first thing we see is her manager hiding something from her. I thought at first, like, we're trying to think of how they died. I didn't know if these characters were related or if they were connected somehow. And I was trying to see, like was he on set and, like, part of the set came crashing down and killed her and he got hit by the equipment too. But we've established in this episode that, 1, they don't have to be related. They don't have to be connected in any way, shape, or form. They can show up just randomly. And their deaths don't have to be connected. They died 2 totally separate ways, but they just died at the exact same time and showed up in limbo at the exact same moment. And that's it. So that's some good world building. That's some good lore that we get to add on to this. So that's fun. But yeah. And then we see the manager for the first time, who just looks miserable and exhausted, and we find out later that she just got to her breaking point and kills the woman, and it's like, kills Misaki, and it's like, oh my god, thinks her manager was hiding something from her. And it was like, yeah, she was hiding the fact she was going to murder your ass. It's like, oh my god. So yeah, and she, throughout the episode, one thing that's fascinating is that Misaki, she clearly hates how her sexuality has led to all these different events in her life. I don't think she regrets her children, but the fact that she has 5 kids from 3 different men, and she seems not embarrassed by it, but just kind of overwhelmed. But at the same time, she ends up like calling out for her children for help, right? She loves her children most, and he loves the mom or stepmom most. And that's revealed, and it's like, it's sort of one of those things where she was so busy with her job, she neglected her children, and he was so inside his own head that he neglected to see the love that was right there. They both neglect to see the love that's right there in front of them. I thought they were going to get the same fate. I thought either they were both going to hell, or they're at the very end when Decim like hugs them both in the most awkward, creepy hug, that they were either both going to hell or both going to be reincarnated. I didn't think it would be one and the other. But I figured it would be the guy, and we'll talk about this even after she like smashed his face into the arcade machine. So yeah, but that's kind of just the sadness of Misaki's character, is that she uses her sexuality to convince him to go along with her, but in the same breath, she almost seems like she hates that sexuality because of all the things it has led to happening in her life that have caused her setbacks. And so, and not to say her children are setbacks, because I don't think that's the case, but, her aspirations and things being put on hold because she has to take care of her kids. So, and that one TV show break just happened to be the thing that she needed as a springboard. I do love the in-joke references throughout this. Like, the fact that she's like, man, they got some production value. Like, as they're doing the set, she's like, they have a lot of money to spend on this. That was hilarious. And the animation, when the animation decides to be on with this series, it is on. Like, from the development of, they go through this big sprawling camera shot and everything, just to have this little arcade go boop. Like that, and that's it. But when she like freaks out later, like the animation on her, the movement, the fluidity of the camera work, chef's kiss, right? Chef's kiss. I freaking loved it. It was just absolutely glorious. So yeah. All right. So we go past the OP, which is such a jam, such a bop, and we still have so many other modes of death to talk about. But yeah, the battle of life. What's interesting is so far we've only had one game that dealt with actually causing pain, which was the first one with the darts, which makes sense because the darts have a sharp point. They can literally hurt you. But then the bowling, nah. And this battle of life did not cause any pain, just had the memories come back, and that was pretty much it. I do love the fact of how they, like Decim and the black hair girl all have their simultaneous, like, pose they do now, their straight robot pose. But I do love the fact that the characters Yosuke, and then they just circles around, it's the same character. You have no choice but to pick yourself, which is kind of funny. But then when he picks himself, so he's 176 centimeters, home security is his job, and he's an otaku and he has no abilities. And so we have A, S, D, and G. So I'm guessing A is attack, S is special, D is defense, and G, I don't know what G stands for, but you have like A is his highest, and then D is his second highest, and G is his lowest, right? Then you get to her character, and it says his move list. He has love figurine upper, shrine pilgrimage attack. God, it's great. Blu-ray phalanx AA and combo ultra finishing move. Like, and I love that he's embarrassed about it. He's like, oh God, this is, he's like, they're making a fool of me. This looks so dumb. Because he's a gamer, right? Whereas she's like, oh, this kind of looks fun. And of course, her attack is still good, but like her G is really high. So that's interesting. And her defense is the lowest. But her ability is temptation. And she's 38 and she's a TV character with the mirror. And it says her moves: children's toy, brand bag blow, parasol gun, bubble dream, ultra finishing move. And the bubble dream is just them running over them, right? Which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, the children's toy, showing her connection to her kids. But it's funny, he has the figurine of like the Sailor Moon style girl, or it looks like maybe, Vocaloid, maybe. Or it looks like Soul Eater, it looks like Maka. And then you have her with the mirror, like she's only thinks of herself. She's vain. Now, I'm going to be honest. In any arcade game like this, I would totally just get my opponent in a corner and spam the hell out of it. But yeah, there's all these moves and everything. I love anime that go the extra mile to literally create their own games. It's kind of fun. And then she has her first memory flashback where she thinks of herself in high school. Like as a high school student. And then we see her talking to the guy at the arcade, which is funny. She's the one that picked the game that they played, and they picked the arcade, and it shows like her talking to the one delinquent looking guy. And then of course it shows her having sex with him in the bathroom. And then like they were getting married because she was pregnant. Yep. And then, of course, that's when he slaps her. And she had at least 2 kids with him before they divorced. And then he left. And then it shows her with, like, a dark-haired man, like, same deal, and bringing him back. And at that point, she has, like, 4 kids there, right? And then he hits her. I feel bad for her because it's like, watching another show, there was a female character who had a similar situation, and you feel bad for her because it's just like, yeah, her personality's not great, but like nobody deserves, like it was like she was seeking love, and when she thought she found it, it turned out to not be that way at all. Like, I have a soft spot for characters like those who are just seeking validation and love in their lives, but they make bad decisions, and it leads to, like, these horrible situations. And yeah, I feel for her kids, because she has 5 kids and clearly has no stability in terms of that part of her life. But I feel for her because it seems like she, despite the persona she puts on, despite the wall she builds up, and goes bonkers later and just cannot, anger management's not her friend, she still just wants love and validation, and she ends up being with these terrible people who just abuse her, and that's not cool in any regard. Nobody deserves that. Even if you're not the greatest person, nobody deserves that in their life. It seems like every relationship she had, that was the end result, and that sucks so much. And then she just kind of puts on a face. And so Decim has this little, like, Sailor Moon seashell Little Mermaid. It looks like it's from the 90s, like it was a Little Mermaid accessory. And it's basically, the black-haired girl says, "What the heck is that?" And he says, "A device used for judgment." And she's like, "Huh?" And then she says, "Let me win the next round. And then we'll play the last round together." And he agrees to it. But then he uses the device to make the thing pop off. Okay. And so we have the guy where Misaki wins. We have the guy's memories start to come back. And we see some woman yelling at him, or some woman standing in front of him, and he's a little kid. And then it's that thing, "I wish you'd never been born." And I don't remember if the woman said it or the kid said it. And then we see the same woman yelling at the dad. And then they get divorced. And then the mom was cruel to the kid. The mom wasn't nice. She was cruel to the dad and the kid. And the kid gets left, his parents separate while he's in middle school. And he's kind of down about that. And then he introduces the new woman who seems really kind, and he's very disillusioned by it. Okay. And you have, like, the Russian nesting dolls in the background. That's so fascinating. So yeah, you have the idea of this man whose mom was terrible and, like, verbally abused him and his dad, and then she leaves, and the dad meets someone nice and brings him home, but the son's like, "Oh, I've seen this before. I can't trust this." And which is kind of weird because it's sort of the exact opposite of the situation Misaki's in. Misaki's in the situation where she keeps repeating the same cycle, thinking that it's going to get better, but it doesn't. She's either attracted to the same type of douchebag, or it's just things don't work out in her favor and the cycle repeats. And then you have Yusuke, who thinks the cycle will repeat, so he acts completely opposite with her, even though if he was nice to her, then all that probably could have been avoided. It's really cool. That's interesting. That's very interesting. But yeah, they go back to the bathroom to talk about the situation, and he kind of lies where he's like, "Oh, well, I just thought it'd make good television if I nearly beat you." And she's like, kind of in her delusion going, "Oh, yeah, of course, that makes sense. Yeah, good thinking. Just keep that up for the last round. We'll do that. We'll go with that." And I like the black-haired girl. The black-haired girl tells Decim, she's like, "You need to not use that thing for judgment. Stop doing that. Like, that's not fair. Escalating it." And he's like, "I have my pride as an arbiter." Meaning that, which is fascinating, he's like, it creates extreme conditions because we don't have time to judge based on the little criteria that we have for this game. I like that Decim talks about being proud. It reminds me back to episode 2 when Nona was, like, grabbing his tie and leaning him down and being like, "Where is your pride, right? Get it right. Stand by your decisions." So I feel like Decim wants to stand by his decisions, like Nona said, but in order for him to do that, he has to feel confident in those decisions, which is why he's trying to escalate the emotions and memories coming back so he can make a judgment call that way. And the black-haired girl kind of calls him out, being like, "Come on, that's still not fair." But meanwhile, our two inside, they don't understand where they've been or why they can't remember anything. And he's like, "I was at home playing a game." And God, what's so crazy is that he's wearing the glasses in this scene, in the scene in the bathroom, he's washing his face off, and the glasses are laying down on the counter, and we see him pick them back up. And then when we go later to see the suicide, he lays the glasses down before he jumps. And all he remembers was he was playing a game. He said, someone bring me here. And she's like, was it your mother, perhaps? And he's like, not possible. She hasn't said a word to me in years. And he's like, what about your family? And then she tries remembering, and she remembers like her kid crying, and we see her like practicing like play lines. The kid crying is her youngest, and the other sister and the older siblings are trying to make him feel better, and they all look kind of forlorn. And yeah, the older siblings look a lot like her, right? And they're not happy about any of this. And what's so sad is like it seems like she was doing all of this to try to give them a better life, but then she got caught up in the vanity of it, and she became self-centered and only thought of herself and neglected her kids, which is awful. But it's such a bad situation. I hate it. Like she clearly should not have been vain and should have thought about her kids. And even if she was trying to do it to benefit them, she should have taken them into account more. But I'm against any type of assault. So the fact that she got assaulted by like all those guys, not cool. Not cool at all. So yeah, so they go back and talk to him, and Decim can tell them only so much. So he can say like, oh, there's no hidden cameras. No, we're not punking you, but I can't tell you anything else. And her getting mad, everybody just grabs Decim by the front of his shirt. I'm surprised he's probably has to press and iron every single shirt he owns because everybody grabs him and yanks him. And she's like, stop screwing with me. And he's like, after the game, I'll tell you everything. And she's like, I want to know. And he's like, sorry. I love he says, I'm terribly sorry. He's like, I'm terribly sorry, but I can't. And that's when she remembers the mannequins. And it almost seems like they show them the mannequins, which it's the saddest thing because they're Decim's hobby. They're like what he does for fun, but he shows them to people as a macabre like means of manipulation to get them to get a little bit more freaked out and possibly make a rash decision or reveal something about them. Because she's like, if I lose, will I get killed? And he's like, I can't tell you that. And when she says, well, that's not fair. He has been able to see all of her memories at this point. He's been able to see everything with her memory, but he can't. It's like you're looking at a picture without sound, so he can't make a judgment based on just the fact that she's given those memories to him. And that's why he says, life is full of unfairness. You would know better than anyone. That's something you know all too well. When his eyes like widen and we see like her sitting there with like the kid nursing from her and her like with the big bruise across her face. Like the idea that she had this kid that she may or may not have asked for, but she's raising him and she's suffering this abuse and just stays in this bad situation. It got real dark real quick and I was like, oof. Like, just touching on some hard stuff, right? Touching on some hard stuff. So she goes back to play the game, and it's the final round. And she's, like, trying to do her best. And that's when and she's, like, her kids appear as a special move, and they're like, stop picking on our mom. And she gets really excited when she sees them. She's like, oh, children, they're just beating him up. She's like, let him have it. And then 4 of them walk away. And for a second, she's like, oh, they were utterly weak, weren't they? And that part I got a little mad at because I was like, girl, your kids were trying to protect you. Don't diss them. And then the one sticks around, Takahiro, on top of him. And he's like, what kind of move is this? What is this? And then that's when the thing pops off. And the black-haired girl's like, quit using that. It's cheating. And then he's like, but it's necessary. And she's like, how so? And that's, and the how so, like, the fact that she's not going to be able to get the topper back on in time. She goes over to the other side and, oh my God, again, the glasses fall off and are on the ground there. And they're the last thing we see before he jumps out the window. Oh my gosh. But yeah. And she's just banging his head against the arcade. At that point, I was like, well, she's probably going to get to the void because that's a bit extreme, like knocking this man out so that he can't win. We have to reveal the darkness of their soul. We can't pass judgment otherwise. And she's like, this is just dragging it out by force, isn't it? And then she throws it to the ground. So messed up. And that's when he like has the vision of falling out the window and realizes that shit, we're probably dead. And then so he like shows him watching the television screen. He's trying to remember what exactly happened. And then that's when Decim, they call for the ambulance, and he's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to call for an ambulance. And I like that Decim like clenches his fist. Like it's almost like he wants to tell them so badly that they're dead, but he can't. He's bound by the rules, right? And he can't say too much, even if he wanted to. And so, and he says, please continue to play the game. It's almost like Decim, I do think it's so fascinating because I think Decim has a heart. And he wants to, when she's like begging for them to call the ambulance, it's almost like he wants to interfere and do something, but he's bound by this duty. So it's so fascinating to see somebody as a character that's so straight-laced and dry, but then yet has this like bottled up emotion. It's interesting. Decim's character gets more and more fascinating as we go, because he was pretty sinister in this episode. He was pretty freaky, I'm not gonna lie. She's like, you people are crazy. And I'm like, well, yes, that this whole concept is crazy, right? And then we cut back to her. And she holds Yusuke in her arms until she goes back to the arcade game, right? Like a mom would hold a kid. Which is so telling. And then she goes to beat him, and he ends up he wakes up. Before he does that, he goes back to the stepmom saying, I have a dream. And the dream is that my son is going to call me mama. And then, of course, Yusuke is just like, he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. And then for her to be by his side screaming his name at the end when he died, like that just hit home. And at that moment, he realizes just how important that mother's love was they took for granted, right? Because it's, again, the contrast. You have Misaki, who kind of abandoned her kids to pursue this life, regardless of whether it was trying to get money for the kids or not. She still abandoned them in a large regard and doesn't realize that till the end. And then you have Yusuke, who realizes that, no, I actually had a stepmom that was caring about me, and I avoided her. And so it's like both of them coming to conclusions on different side of the spectrum, right? And then that's when he sees his mom home cook, or stepmom home cooked attack. Supper time! That's the attack name. That's great. And she like throws different plates of food while he's eating at her. And he realizes, and he calls her mama. He calls her mom. At that point, I was like, even though he committed suicide, when we find out he committed suicide, I'm like, oh, he's probably going to the void. But then when he realizes what he took for granted and kind of realizes the error of his ways, I was like, well, maybe he'll get reincarnated. So then that left everything up to Misaki and what she's going to do. And I like that as they both are like going towards each other, fighting, that's when their memories come back and he sees the game over on the screen. And that's when he decides, like, saying, this sucks. And decides to just, I'm like, dude, you didn't seem to have that bad of a life. Wasn't worth it. No. And then she says, why do you always schedule things without asking first? Now, to be fair, granted, yeah, Misaki, like, bitch slapped this lady across the face for no reason. There was no reason to slap that woman. I am not defending Misaki for slapping that woman. That was not called for. Totally unacceptable. And her actions after that are bad. Where she picks up the phone. That's something she's like, oh, Sachi, I'm sorry for breaking my promise. I can't make it home tonight either. Did Takahiro take his nap? I know. I'll do my best here. Like, granted, granted, it was a bitch move to slap a girl and then get on the phone with your kids like nothing happened. That is not acceptable. However, you shouldn't murder someone for that. Like turn her in or tell the supervisor or something. But murdering her, that was a bit extreme. And we don't know how long this has been going on, but that was a bit much, right? Like, what the hell? And they both kind of realize in that moment what happens and knocked each other out. And she's like, I have my children. And then he's like, suicide. Why did I commit that? And the game ends in a draw because they both realize the dark places that they went to. Oof. Ooh, 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 oof. It is, this whole situation is really rough. And then they're like, are we dead? And he's like, yeah, you guys have passed on. And after your death, we have to go to either heaven or hell. That's for the ruling. And you can tell she's like, if you'll please step in the elevators, you'll learn your outcome. And you can tell she's like, oh, hell no. I don't want to go to the void. She's kind of fighting it because she thinks that she's done wrong and goes after him. And she like gets caught up in the cords. And she's like, why do you get to decide this? What do you know about me? And he says, I'm an arbiter. And she's like, how is any of this judgment? You just tricked me. Which isn't a lie, but he frames it. He's like, you say tricking you. I say drawing out the darkness of your soul and taking it in. It's like, it's all a matter of perspective, right? But yeah, it does kind of beg the question, why do these random folks get to pass judgment? I guess because they are a neutral party. And because if you look at things objectively, I guess. And he says, that's just my part in this. I just have this part, and she doesn't care. She's like, it's always like this. My whole life, I've always been deceived. And I didn't care what everyone thought. But then the light hit me. My life was just getting started. Yeah, she finds a way to like make that work in her favor, right? And she thinks that that's when her... And the sad thing about all of it is that for both characters, they both didn't have the worst life. Like, she had her children, right? She focused so much. I mean, and that anybody that's experienced a traumatic thing like that or have been assaulted or whatever, it's very easy to always go back to that moment. It's so easy to go back to it and obsess over it and make that the forefront of everything that's wrong. But what's so sad is she did have her children that whole time. She had her children with her. They could have been a source of comfort and love and support, but instead she only thought that she could earn that love from her kids and make them happy by having this success when she could have been doing that all along. That's the sad thing. And for Yusuke, he was saying about how bad his life was, but he had a stepmom that was trying to love him and get him to feel the compassion she had for him. And he just completely didn't realize that. And taking your life is never a good thing. There's always like as we see in this episode, there was someone that cared for him. He just didn't realize it until it was too late. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And she like breaks away from the threads. And Decim honestly looks kind of like shocked, like was not expecting this emotion to come from her. He looks surprised and he moves towards her. And the guy moves forward and he moves towards her as the guy's beside him. And the guy's about to cry too. And he says, why did I commit suicide? Like they both regret what happened to them and what they took for granted. They both have those regrets. And Decim's kind of just like, what do I do with these emotions? How do I pass judgment? What do I do with this? Like he's analyzing everything about them and taking it all in and determining. And she's like, send me back. And like collapses into him to cry. She wants him to let her go. And then he tells her, she like asks him to stop as all he's doing is hugging her. And then he says, you really have done well. Almost like he's giving her this comfort, but... And then he brings them both in and like hugs them. And so he says, both of you have done well. And he just like hugs them, and it's so weird seeing Decim hug them like that. It's so bizarre. Like, because at that point you're like, well, is he hugging them because he's sparing both of them? Or is he hugging them because he's lying and both of them are going to hell? Or the void? Or is he just saying that to appease her? I feel like maybe he thought if Misaki went back in turmoil like she was, she would her soul reincarnated would be in a bad situation and would maybe become a bad person or something like that. I don't know if he thought that it wasn't going to work out that way. Because the black hair girl watches this gesture with him. She doesn't say anything. But then when they take them to the elevator and he puts them in, he's like, off you go. And you see the guy looking just absolutely freaking drained. He's got the scars from his head being bashed against the arcade, looking drained. And she looks straight up at Decim. She looks very much like the girl from episode 1 that ended up going to hell. Like, what the heck? And then we have the mannequins. Craziness. So, yeah. So, getting more with Decim's character, the fact that he has pride in his job, the fact that he's not afraid to go to extremes to, like, draw out these emotions, the fact that he gives the creepy hug to, like, satisfy both of them, and the fact that he kind of can lie and manipulate is interesting. Interesting indeed. And yeah, and the black-haired girl is clearly just kind of a little bit disillusioned by it all, being like, is it good to escalate things and make them go to the extreme? Is it good? I don't know. Crazy talk indeed, right? This episode was so crazy and messed up, but really good. Again, we only have Decim, we only have the black-haired girl. I'm hopeful we'll get the other characters. I mean, we're on episode 4. We are a third of the way through this. These episodes are too short. They're too short. Far too short. But I'm going to be curious to see what we're going to get in the next episode. Hopefully more with our colorful cast, but we shall see. So, please no spoilers, but I would really like to know what you all think down below. I really want to know what y'all think about these episodes. But I'm really excited. I can't wait for episode 5 now. I'm hooked on this series, and I can't wait for more, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. So, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back really soon with episode 5 of Death Parade. Bye.